Hello and welcome to this tutorial. Today I would like to talk about the security, identity and compliance inside the AWS console. As you can see here, I've just logged in with my Masoud user account, and if you remember, I just want to recall that we've created the ITrepo root account, and then we've created the Masoud username with full access to the AWS console, and I'm right now logged in with the Masoud user account, which technically it has full access to the AWS console. So after login, so we went through the IAM for configuring some user groups, roles, security, permissions like policies. So this is the place that we can do this. The only remaining part is it's going to be roles that I'm going to show you in the next lecture. But other than that, identity and access management is a location that we can manage our users and groups and or security access keys in order to be able to access the AWS resources. So if you take a look at the security and identity compliance part, there are other options also here. For example, Cognito is one of the options here, that it's an identity management system for data synchronization between different devices. Let's say, I'm sure that you're familiar with the profiles for user accounts. Let's say you are a developer and you're creating an application which it is based on the user profiles, and then you are giving you're giving away your application or your service to your customers, and probably they have different devices like they have, let's say they have cell phones, they have tablets, they have desktop computers, and you want them whenever and wherever they're logging to different devices, you want them to see their profiles. In this case, you can leverage this service inside the AWS, and technically with the Cognito you can sync users' profiles across multiple devices. It's going to be pretty useful especially for developers. If they use Cognito, they can just focus on their codes for the application. They don't care about the user synchronization. Another option here is secrets manager. If you've ever worked with secrets servers, different companies, they have different products for managing username and passwords and keep track of them, and rotate them based on different life cycles. This is going to be one service inside AWS that is doing the same thing. So you can keep your secrets, keep your passwords and access codes here, and you can rotate them properly, especially for enterprise organizations. Another options that we have here is guard duty, which is just a threat detection for AWS accounts, and it's going to protect your AWS accounts against any threats or attack. And if you go inside, for example, guard duty, you can see that there are some explanation related to the guard duty here, and it checks with you that how is the policy or the permissions that it's gonna use for accessing your resources inside AWS, and then you can enable the guard duty, and then the feature will be activate, and it is checking your AWS like log files and VPC flow logs and DNS queries in order to make sure that everything is fine related to your AWS account. So moving forward, as you can see, all of these features are for just security, identity, and compliance. Another one is an inspector, that I'm sure that from the name you can say what is this one, and it's just a service that is analyzing all the application security. And another service here is Amazon Macy, which this one is pretty good actually. In Amazon Macy, the way it works is, let's say in your S3 bucket, on your S3 storage, which if you don't know what is S3 right now, don't worry about it, we'll talk about it. But S3, it's technically in a storage that we can keep our files and folders and our content there. Let's say in our S3 storage, we have a bunch of stuff, and then with this service, with the Amazon Macy, technically we can discover and we can tag our content, and we can understand what kind of data we are keeping inside our storage. Let's say you have some content with email addresses, you have some content with credit card information or addresses or critical or important informations. With this service, Amazon is going to tag them for you. It's going to discover them automatically for you, and then you can decide what you want to do with these contents. Let's say you have different files, and it's going to and check the content of the files, and then it will tell you, okay, this file is in, let's say, critical category, or in category that you are keeping some email addresses or secrets or passwords or access codes, and then you can decide what you want to do with the content of these data, or how you want to protect them. Another option here is single sign-on. If you are working in IT, definitely you're familiar with the single sign-on, and technically it means that you want to be able to log into different applications, different services from a single glass pane of view. Another option here is certificate managers. So I'm going through some of these services here. I'm going to check the single sign-on. I'm going to check the certificate manager definitely, and I'm going to check, let's say, their directory service. Some of them just in case if you need them in your daily routine tasks. But for certificate manager, again, if you work with websites for having SSL connections for HTTPS, probably you've worked with the certificate before. You need to get a certificate from the CA and then assign the certificate to your website. So I'm going to use this one later in order to publish a website on HTTPS traffic. Another option in cloud HSM, which is technically it's hardware security modules inside the cloud. You can again add your security option to your AWS services. This option is directory service. If you're, I'm sure if you've worked with the Microsoft environment, you should be able to guess what is this one. This is technically running Active Directory in the AWS in order to use the Active Directory for authentication, for security purposes, and for the administration and policy management and policy assigning policy to your Windows machines. But there are a bunch of options here. If you go to the directory service, and here at the right side you have at the top right side you have set up directory. If you click on this one, you can see 4 options here: AWS Manage Microsoft AD, which is the Active Directory, Simple AD, AD Connector, and Amazon Cognito use your user profile. So these are just 4 options here. But if I go back to the previous page, you can see we have another one, which is a cloud directory, which is just the directories and schemas inside the AWS, and you can use it for authentication purposes and keep track of other information related to the users. So in total, it's gonna be 5 different directory services. So moving forward, if I click again on the setup directory, as you can see, the first one is Active Directory in AWS, that you can use it for the authentication and for your policy management. If you are familiar with the Active Directory, you can spin up an Active Directory, and then you can join Microsoft operating system to the domain, and then start managing your user accounts and your policies from a centralized location, which is the Active Directory. Another option that we have here is something called Simple AD, and as you can see here, it's just a standalone Linux box with the Samba and Active Directory compatible, which it's not going to support these services down here. And another one is an AD connector, which from its names, it's self-explanatory that it's just a connector. It's a proxy between your infrastructure in AWS and an Active Directory, and it has different sizes, let's say, and based on the number of users you should be able to choose one of them. And the last one is Amazon Cognito. You technically based on the Cognito, and users can log in with their external identity. I mean, you can use email address, you can use phone numbers, or you can use other providers like Facebook or Google for the authentication purposes. Moving forward, I'm going back to the console. The next one in the security, identity, and compliance is WAF Shield. So this one is a web application, like a firewall for the the DDoS attack and for malicious web traffics. So if we need any control over our web servers, or if we need any control to see what's going on related to any web traffics, and we want to have a shield or a firewall, we can start using the WAF module inside AWS. And if I click on this one, and if I go to the configure web ACL, this is the concept of having a WAF and put your web server behind a WAF module. So you can have control over the IP addresses, over the bots, or any SQL queries, any injection, and then any bad IP addresses or any problems that it's gonna threat your web server. So this is going to be one of the modules and services that could be really useful. And the last one in the security and identity and compliance is the artifact, which is technically you can create different report based on the different standards, and you can get the result for different purposes. For example, we have ISO 27001, and it should be a PCI also here, for example. And you can run this report, and you can get the result for anything that it's PCI compliance inside your AWS account. This was just an overview of the security, identity and compliance part. And in the next lecture, I'm going to go to the IAM and start creating a role and configure a very simple role. And in the next couple of modules, we are going to use each of these components, each of these services here, to just test them to see how it works. For example, one of them that I definitely gonna try is single sign-on, and then directory servers also, to just make sure how the system is working, how these services are working. It's gonna be fun. Lots of new services, lots of powerful services inside the AWS that we can leverage in order to build our infrastructure. And I hope that you can use at least most of these services, and you can build a very, very sophisticated infrastructure on top of it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture.